Diana Cojocari's mother was in the courtroom as her daughter pleaded not guilty for failing to report her child missing to law enforcement. Christopher Palmitter, Madalina's stepfather, faces the same charge and also pleaded not guilty. Defense attorneys say he doesn't know where Madalina is and believes Diana gave her to someone.
Welcome back. I'm Cassie and this is A Wicked World. If you haven't checked out A Wicked World on Patreon yet and you want to help support the channel, then click the link in the description box below. And there you'll have access to over 30 exclusive videos with new ones being added each month. The story I have for you today is one about a little girl who seemingly vanished into thin air. And it's one that's still unsolved, and the main suspect recently left the country. This is the story of Madalina Cojocari. Madalina Cojocari was born on April 11, 2011, in Moldova to her mother, Diana Cojocari. It's unknown who her biological father is. Madalina was said to be quiet and shy, but also a very sweet and smart girl who loved horseback riding. She was additionally a great student, and she attended Bailey Middle School in Cornelius, North Carolina. Her mother, Diana Cojocari, used to work as a translator, and she came from a well-known musician family. Back in 2008, Diana had set up an online dating profile on the website Global Ladies. This is where she met Christopher Palmitter, who was 22 years older than her. They had emailed each other for about a year or two before Christopher flew out to Moldova to meet Diana. Things went well on the first trip, mostly dinners and sightseeing. Then Christopher returned again for a second time when he gave Diana a promise ring. However, the couple ended up losing contact for some years before Diana again reached out to Christopher. And even though Diana told him that she had recently become pregnant by a local man who wanted nothing to do with her, she and Christopher were still able to rekindle their romance via email. This then led Diana to travel to the United States with Madalina in December of 2015, and just a month later, her and Christopher were married. The couple, along with Madalina, lived in a nice home in Cornelius, North Carolina, in a fairly affluent neighborhood. The family was able to maintain their lifestyle thanks to Christopher's well-paying job as a designer at an engineering firm. Neighbors of the family claimed that in the few years that they had lived there, they rarely saw Diana outside. Anytime Madalina went outside to play or ride her bike or even go trick-or-treating, Christopher was the one who would accompany her. The relationship between Madalina's mother, 39-year-old Diana Cojocari, and her 62-year-old husband, Christopher Palmitter, was an odd one. Christopher had never been married before, and he actually hadn't even had a serious relationship since college. On top of that, Diana was not affectionate at all. She would let Christopher kiss her on the cheek before bedtime, and if it was a special occasion, she would let him kiss her on the lips. They were never physically intimate, and in 2018, Diana had stopped sleeping in the same room as her husband altogether. There also seemed to be quite a big difference between Madalina's parents when it came to their spiritual beliefs. Diana was a follower of Kundalini, a new age faith that combines spiritual awakening with yoga practices. Followers believe that a divine feminine energy exists in the body and can be awoken through tantric practice and can lead to spiritual liberation. Diana had even continued to follow Kundalini after its leader in the United States, Yogi Bhajan, was outed as a fraud and predator. Christopher, on the other hand, was a very conservative man who had Christian values. Due to her spiritual practices, Madalina's mother had begun to spend less time with her daughter, though Diana had also at one point started teaching Madalina some of her Kundalinic chants. According to Christopher, Diana said her extra time spent practicing her beliefs and less time with her daughter was because she was constantly fighting demons. By 2021, Diana was staying up late at night to do chants and prayers. She would start chanting faster and faster, which she said gave her more prayer contact, which in her mind was like spiritual points. By 2022, Diana's chanting sessions had become so loud at night that Christopher would say he often had a hard time sleeping. He claimed she sounded like she was screaming at the top of her lungs sometimes. Once, Diana had even performed a ritual on both Christopher and Madalina. During this ritual, she had both her husband and daughter sit in chairs while she waved a knife over their heads, saying that she was cutting the strings that demons above them had attached to their heads. Additionally, Diana had a habit of burning things in the backyard fire pit, including things that should not be burnt, like stainless steel travel mugs, cat boxes, and metal coat racks. So needless to say, 11-year-old Madalina did not have the most normal home life. But did all her mother's odd beliefs have anything to do with the 11-year-old's disappearance? The last day that Madalina would be seen by anyone other than her family was on November 21st, 2022 at 4:59 p.m. as she was getting off her school bus near her home on Victoria Bay Drive, just a few miles from her school. Then, 2 weeks after Madalina was last seen on December 12th, 2022, a school counselor went over to the girl's home and began to question where she was. Prior to this, the school had actually sent multiple emails and left 5 voicemails for Diana in regards to Madalina's whereabouts. However, when the counselor arrived at the home, no one answered the door, and instead he had to leave a truancy packet at the door. In the packet, it was stated that it was expected that Diana, along with her daughter, Madalina, would come to the school on December 14th to discuss Madalina's many absences. But when that day came and the little girl did not show up for the scheduled meeting, but her mother did, the police were contacted. Come to find out, Madalina had been missing for weeks, and no one had reported it until now. As soon as authorities were notified, they put out a missing persons alert, which stated that Madalina Cojocari had last been seen wearing jeans, pink, purple, and white Adidas shoes, a white t-shirt, and a jacket. She was 4 feet 10 inches tall and weighed around 90 pounds. The search for her began immediately, and police also obtained a search warrant for the family's home. Diana told authorities that she had last seen her daughter on November 23rd around 10 p.m. She said that she and Christopher had had a fight that night, and he had driven all the way to Michigan to retrieve some things from his family's home. When Diana had then gone to check on Madalina the following morning, which was Thanksgiving, around 11:30 a.m., she was nowhere to be seen. But according to Diana, she decided to not ask Christopher about Madalina's whereabouts. She didn't ask him until he returned back home a few days later on November 26th. When police spoke with Christopher, he would say that he had not seen Madalina the day that he had left for Michigan. In fact, he hadn't seen the little girl for about a week prior to that. When he had returned on November 26th, he'd asked Diana where Madalina was, and she turned it around and said, "I don't know. Do you know where she is?" Christopher would also rationalize not seeing Madalina for some time by saying that he thought that she was with friends, and he also thought that there was times that she was in her room as he had seen the lights on. Then, 2 days after 11-year-old Madalina was reported as missing, both Diana and Christopher were placed under arrest for not reporting her as missing sooner, thanks to Kaylee's Law. The judge would say that Diana had hindered the investigation, and she had only begrudgingly reported her daughter as missing. She was then held on a $250,000 bond, and Christopher was held on a $200,000 bond. During a search of the family home, police would find that some of Madalina's personal items were also missing, including some of her clothing and her backpack. There also seemed to be a few small squares of carpet cut out in both Madalina's room and in the living room. An area of the kitchen was also boarded up with plywood, and when investigators asked Christopher why, he said that he planned on building an apartment. In total, 25 different items were seized from the family home, including 3 iPhones. Police also seized $8,100 cash that was wrapped in tinfoil in Diana's purse. When they searched her car, they found passports for Madalina and Diana, along with a Moldovan debit card. Additionally, police found wire receipts showing that Diana had sent thousands of dollars to her mother in Moldova, as well as a Moldovan priest. A Facebook message that Christopher had sent shortly after things were seized to a relative of his named Mary Palmer McCreary would also later be discovered. In it, he had told her, "We are in some kind of investigation. Maddie is missing, and the local police have taken all of our electronics. Luckily, I have an old phone, although they did not take my personal computer, probably because they overlooked it. Diana is using it now to call her parents." In the early days of the search, hundreds of investigators had participated in the case, following almost 250 leads, canvassing the area and interviewing hundreds of people in North Carolina, as well as across state lines and even outside of the country. The FBI also investigated the case. Police also began to speak to neighbors of the family to see if they could find out any more information that might lead them to Madalina. When they did, multiple people reported seeing the couple burning things in a fire pit located in the backyard. Things such as a bed and either a couch or couch cushions, but police have not confirmed these items yet. This was all the information that was publicly available in regards to Madalina's disappearance for a while. But then, on March 8th, 107 days after the little girl had originally gone missing, new documents were unsealed that revealed that Diana had a male cousin named Octavian Sebanu, whom she had asked to smuggle her and Madeline away from their home in Cornelius. She claimed that she was unhappy in her relationship with Christopher, and she wanted a divorce. Which would probably be the easy thing to do, just get a divorce instead of having someone smuggle you and your child away. Shortly after that, surveillance footage from December 16th showed Madalina on Sugar Mountain. Allegedly, she was seen with a man who resembled Diana's cousin, Octavian, who was also the 11-year-old's only blood relative in the United States. However, after further investigation, it was deemed that this was a false sighting and the girl was not Madalina. Since the girl's disappearance, police had also been recording Christopher and Diana's phone calls. In one call, Diana is heard speaking to her own mother about a big bag of cash, financial deposits, and she also floated the theory that Christopher had sold Madalina for money. In a conversation that Christopher had with his brother and his brother's wife, he's heard saying that Diana has a bunch of cash and there's a financial situation coming up. His brother then tells him not to worry about it. In recorded conversations between Diana and Christopher, both spouses tell each other that they have no idea where Madalina is. Then there was a text message found from Diana's phone in which she had said that Madalina was with her on December 2nd. On December 4th, Diana had sent another text message claiming that she was in the mountains searching, whatever that means. She was also allegedly seen getting an oil change in Hickory, about an hour and a half away from her home, on December 3rd. But Madalina was not with her. Then, on the night of December 4th, Diana was spotted by a deputy by herself sleeping in her car near Lonesome Mountain. Now, Christopher and Diana had both been in jail awaiting their trials. And it was discovered that during Christopher's time in jail, police had intentionally placed him with an informant. Also, sometime during his stay, his jail notebooks were seized. Madalina Cojocari would not end up going to trial, as she ended up pleading guilty to not reporting her daughter as missing in a timely manner. At that point, she had already served enough time in jail, and she was released right after her sentencing in May of 2024. Diana would allegedly blame her husband, Christopher Palmer, for not reporting her daughter as missing sooner because she feared his reaction, she claimed. During the time that Diana was in jail, she was also hit with another charge after she was found to be in possession of cocaine mixed with fentanyl. Police also revealed that they had found phone records that tied Diana to people involved with drug trafficking. Upon her release from prison, reporters had asked Diana if she knew where her daughter was. She replied with, "I hope so," then followed up with, "I hope she's safe." As for Christopher, he'd been out on bond, but he would go to trial in May of 2024 as well. He claimed that he had not known that Madalina was missing until he spoke with school and police officials. During Christopher's trial, his testimony would reveal new information about the case, like the fact that he had not known that Diana had been stealing from him until after he was arrested. Christopher would then go on to describe his wife as being controlling of all situations in their home. He stated that Diana was distant and unpredictable. Christopher believed that his wife had taken Madalina and hidden her away somewhere, maybe with her Moldovan family. He also did not believe that she would ever be found. According to him, Diana had been adamant that he take the unplanned trip to Michigan on November 23rd. He had been instructed by Diana to get clothing and other things that had been kept in Michigan for Madalina. Before he had left for Michigan, Christopher claimed that he had not seen Madalina, and Diana had told him that she was sleeping. Now, normally, Christopher did not see much of Madalina anyways, because he didn't get home from work until around 7:30 p.m. Then, he would leave the following morning around 6:30 before Diana and Madalina were usually awake. On the night prior to him going to Michigan, Christopher said that on November 22nd, he and Diana had a fight. It was a big argument over a coffee mug because it had a snowflake on it, and Diana told him there could be no symbols in her home. This argument had resulted in Diana taking the coffee mug along with the other plates and mugs and throwing them in the trash. Then, when Christopher arrived back home from his trip on November 26th, Diana immediately sent him back out to the store to get cat food for their 10 to 15 cats. After he had returned back from the store, he noticed that Madalina's desk was in a different position than when he had left. Madalina's stepfather went on to testify that the 11-year-old would frequently jump on a trundle mattress kept under her bed, but when he got back from his trip, he no longer heard her jumping on the bed, and the trundle mattress was on the back porch, and all the fabric on it appeared to be burnt off. From there, Christopher had sawed up the metal of the frame in the garage, then disposed of it. Christopher also said that he had found several items at their home that had been burnt while he was away. This included several photos of Madalina. Diana had then kept making excuses, telling him that Madalina was sick in her room and even leaving Flonase on the counter in the kitchen. The entire weekend, he did not see Madalina. Throughout the next week, Christopher worked every day, returning home late. One night, he tried to bring a slice of pizza to Madalina in her room, but was stopped by Diana. Even though Christopher would sometimes work from home, the following week, he went into his company's office near Greensboro every day. This was because the internet connection in their home was not working properly, and Christopher said that Diana had in the past disconnected it herself. Then, on December 6th, Diana had left a note for Christopher that said, "We've gone hiking," referring to her and Madalina, and this was something that the mother and daughter would frequently do, take trips out to the mountains together. Christopher then said that he had received a truancy note from Madalina's school on December 9th, and the following day he had to look up what truancy meant online. After that, he had started to search for Diana and Madalina, but was unable to find either of them. He claims he did not see Diana again until December 11th, and when he did, Madalina was not with her, but he still did not think that the girl was missing. So prior to receiving this truancy note, Christopher actually had another conversation with Diana, in which he had asked to see Madalina, but Diana had quickly tried to change the subject and told him it was none of his business. Then, a few days later, when he had asked about Madalina again, Diana told him that they were not his family and that he needed to find a family of his own. He had then gone on to address the truancy note with Diana, but she did not at all seem concerned, even after Christopher had explained to her that they might have to go to court over it. Christopher also suggested to Diana at that point that if she was not happy with the schooling that Madalina was receiving, maybe she should homeschool her since she had been a teacher in Moldova. Christopher also spoke about how on December 9th, he'd begun to suspect that his wife was going to leave him when he found stacks of plastic bins packed with kitchen items. Upon further looking around the house, Christopher noticed that the carpet had been removed from Diana's room and only the floor padding remained. He didn't know what to think of this. There was additionally a phone call that was recorded between Christopher and Diana, in which Diana spoke about a time period between March and April of 2022, when she had a feeling that her family was in danger and she had asked Christopher to protect them, requesting he take her and Madalina to Michigan. She had asked him to hide her and her daughter from Russian entities who she believed were following her. So Christopher and Diana had then visited with Christopher's family in Michigan in order to arrange for a place for Madalina and Diana to hide away until Diana believed things had calmed down with the Russians. Christopher's family had agreed to help them out. However, Diana declined the arrangement and accused Christopher's sister of recording them. This had then caused many issues between Christopher and Diana. Diana additionally felt very paranoid and thought that Madalina's public school was trying to traffic her. It's also said that Diana believed not only the Russians were tracking her via her cell phone, but she also thought that Michael Jackson was. Yep, that Michael Jackson, in 2022. Also mentioned during Christopher's trial was the fact that Madalina's mother, Diana, had taken issue with Christopher naming her as custodial guardian on some of his investments. She feared it meant someone could take control of her. Apparently, arguments about this investment would frequently arise, and Diana accused Christopher of selling her soul to the devil because of it. Eventually, Christopher would remove his wife's name from the investments, which lost him about $50,000. At the end of the trial, Christopher would be found guilty, and he was sentenced to 30 months supervised probation. Just days after the trial ended, he filed for divorce from Diana. Now, Madalina's maternal grandmother believes that Christopher had been drugging Madalina and Diana. And when Diana fell asleep due to the drugs, Christopher took Madalina out of the home and sold her for $5 million. Diana had allegedly been telling her mother that Christopher had been drugging them for some time, though there is no proof of that.
Madalina Cojocari, Diana's mother and Madalina's grandmother, was in court Thursday and spoke with Queen City News outside the courthouse. A native Russian translator provided a transcript to Queen City News.
Мои дети попали у трафикантов для детей. Моя внучка живая, ее продали вместе с Дианой за $5 миллионов.
Rodica says she wants to take her daughter and granddaughter back to her homeland of Moldova in Eastern Europe because she feels they're in danger in the United States.
Воровать твоего ребенка, не дай бог, или ваших детей. Надо их побыстрее остановить, эту банду. Это настоящая банда, понимаете? Настоящая банда. Их надо остановить. Всего 15 человек. Я знаю только 5 из них. А остальные 10 я не знаю. И я считаю, что Мадалина находится у этого человека, усатого, вот такого полного человека, 63-летнего возраста. Мадалина у него там находится. Я так думаю.
Some people speculate that Diana Cojocari is suffering from mental illness, which makes her have severe delusions, including the one that made her think someone wanted to hurt her and Madalina because of an investment. Though she's never officially been diagnosed with any mental illness, so this is just speculation based on all the crazy things that she had previously done. A few months after Diana was released from jail in June of 2024, police named her as the main suspect in her daughter's disappearance. Not long after that, in September, Diana left the United States. She had posted on her social media a picture of her flying in an airplane with the caption, "On the way from JFK, New York, then to Bucharest." If she makes her way back to her home country of Moldova, it is going to make it very difficult for police to press any further charges against her, as the United States does not have an extradition treaty with Moldova. Multiple vigils were held for Madalina, including one following her disappearance, one in April of 2023 to remember her 12th birthday, and then one in April of 2024 to celebrate her 13th birthday. Madalina Cojocari is still missing to this day, and anyone who has any information is asked to call the Cornelius Police Department at 704-892-1363 or the State Bureau of Investigation at 919-662-4500.
This candlelight sharing some spark of brightness during an otherwise dark time for those here in Cornelius. It's been weeks since 11-year-old Madalina Cojocari was last seen, and only days ago, police say her parents first reported her missing. Community members now pleading for peace and comfort.
We got to love one another. Pray for the world. God, bring her home.
Just the outpouring of love and prayers that everybody wants to be a part of this has really touched us even more. And hopefully that'll help get the parents to open up.
The school bus surveillance video is the last confirmed time Madalina was seen. Childhood friends from years ago still recall the big personality the little girl possessed.
How full of life she was. She was so bubbly. And her and Cameron hit it off Was it the second grade?
Now with the mother and stepfather both facing charges related to Madalina's disappearance, neighbors are concerned for the worst.
When situations like this happen, it raises a couple of question marks. And I guess my biggest fear is, I don't want to say it happening again because I don't want to put that energy out there, but it's disturbing. It's a disturbing reality that something like that could transpire in our neighborhood.
Yet still prayerful for a positive outcome.
We're all praying and holding out hope. Can't give up hope that this is going to have a good ending.
Well, thank you for listening to Madalina's story today. I think without any further evidence, it's very difficult to say exactly what happened to the 11-year-old. However, I think that her mother, who clearly had some mental health issues, likely killed Madalina due to some paranoia or some spiritual cleansing ritual. Either that, or she hid her away in the mountains with some relatives. But if that was the case, then why did Diana leave the United States? Which is why I'm leaning more towards Diana killing her daughter. What do you think? So if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and turn on your notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least twice every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care guys. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon. So check it out at patreon.com/awickedworld or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims never get forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a case you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email at awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.